Hey, good morning, everyone. It is 7 a.m. Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am John Henry Soto, and started doing this about a month now, over a month now. Done quite a few shows already, almost 30, almost 20. I'll be at the end of this week, it'll be 30 shows, and been having a lot of fun with this, covering different topics, mainly based on this book that I'm reading now called The Way to Happiness by L. Ron Hubbard. Boom, 1981. It's not a religious book, but it is a book that has 21 precepts on how to better survive and better live, how to live a happier life, and things that I try really hard to follow. I don't always succeed, but when I do, it's pretty glorious. And when I don't, I get correction, correct myself, and keep moving on the road, right? But I've been having a lot of fun doing that. And yeah, so I hope all of you had a great weekend. We got more snow here in New Jersey, a ton of it actually. I was surprised that it wasn't as much as last week, but it was enough that it was like, whoa, okay. The kids love it. Kids love it. I'm from New York City, so obviously, I've had some huge storms. Seems like these were the kind of storms we were getting when I was a kid. Um, and then it kind of stopped for a while. And now it seems like we're getting a lot of snow again in recent years. So that's been kind of cool. How y'all doing out there? Anybody out there have any questions or any suggestions on what I'm doing, or you want to be on the show in the morning? If you can get up that early, let's do it. Um, all right, so let's get started. So today we're gonna be talking about. Let me get this going here. Okay, so this is number 15 of the precepts. We're going all the way to 21, and then we'll be done. That rhymes. 15. Fulfill your obligations. Okay, so that's number 15. So I talked a little bit about this last week, um, as a portion of last week's on Friday, the last one, which was be worthy of trust. And I kind of went into a little bit of obligations, which um, kind of ties into a little bit. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit different, but um, I felt right back then talking about it. And I'll talk a little bit more about it after I read this. It's not too long. It's just let me see. If it's too long, I don't read the long ones because it's too long. So I'm gonna read sections of this one. So quite a few pages, but I'll read some sections on it, and then we'll have a discussion. Again, as I always mention, um, I do mail out little booklets with the 21 precepts. If you're interested, all you have to do is you have to just email me. If you email me right over here, email me right over here, and in the title, write "The Way to Happiness" booklet. I will respond. We will communicate, and I will send you your own booklet free of charge. Um, while supplies last, and I have some supplies. So, um, but yes, and again, the booklet is smaller. It has all the precepts, and it's just not a bigger book like this. You can get this one too if you're interested in that. I think it's like $20 or something like that. So whatever a book costs. All right, so here we go. Number 15, fulfill your obligations. In going through life, one inevitably incurs obligations. Factually, one is born with certain obligations and they tend to accumulate thereafter. It is no novel or new idea that one owes his parents a debt for bringing one into the world, for raising one. It is a credit to parents that they don't push it any harder than they do. But it is an obligation nevertheless. Even the child feels it, and as life continues to run its course, one accumulates other obligations to other persons, to friends, to society, and even the world. It is an extreme disservice to a person not to permit him to satisfy or pay off his obligations. No small part of the revolt of childhood is caused by others refusing to accept the only coins a baby or child or youth has, which with which to discharge the weight of obligations. The baby smiles, the child's fumbling efforts to help, the youth possible advice, or just the effort to be a good son or a good daughter commonly pass unrecognized, unaccepted, and they can be ill aimed, often ill planned. They fade quickly. Such efforts, when they fail to discharge the enormity of the debt, can be replaced with any number of mechanisms or ras- rationalizations. One doesn't really owe anything. One was owed it all in the first place. I didn't ask to be born. My parents or guardians are no good. And life isn't worth living anyway, to name a few. And yet, the obligations continue to pile up. The weight of obligation can be a crushing burden if one can see no way to discharge it. It can bring about all manner of individual or social disorders. When it cannot be discharged, those who are owed, oftenly unwillingly, find themselves targets for the most unlooked for reactions. One can help a person who finds himself in the dilemma of unpaid obligations, a debt, by simply going over with him or her all the obligations they have incurred and have not fulfilled, moral, social, and financial, and work out some way to discharge all of those the person feels are still owed. One should accept the efforts of a child or an adult to pay off non financial obligations they feel they may owe. One should help bring about some mutually agreeable solution to the discharge of the financial ones. Discourage a person from incurring more obligations than it is possible for him or her to actually discharge or repay. The way to happiness is very hard to travel when one is burdened with the weight of obligations which is owed or which he has not discharged. I read the whole thing because it wasn't as long as I thought it was. But there you go. So obligations, full disclosure, right? I pretty much tell my whole life story here. I don't know why I do that, but I'm pretty open about stuff here. But there have been obligations that I have failed, financial obligations that I know I still have some financial obligations that I have not forgotten about, but I have not really taken full responsibility for, and I'm still working towards to a resolve. Not a lot either, which is what makes it even worse. But enough that it's still there and still bothers me. So, other obligations are, responsibilities, that I have, income wise, making enough income to support the family, doing whatever it takes. Sometimes those obligations become a little bit much when you're on a journey, to try to create some positivity and try to create your art and try to create a better space for yourself, especially when you grew up. When I grew, not making excuses or anything, but I grew up with in a interesting environment, right? There's a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, and a lot of friends and just people and acquaintances that I knew just being taken away from violence or drugs, and being part of that. When you get out of that, you're so grateful. I mean, it was definitely, I felt, growing up, an obligation for me to get out of that environment and to create a life for myself and when I had children, I knew that I wanted to give them, I wanted them to not experience those things. I wanted them not to experience um, being extremely. We had food, I don't want to make it sound like we didn't have food, but not really having a lot of possessions, and not being able to go out and just play all the time because the community was, and I did go out and I did play and I did have friends and I did run around and do stuff, but there was a certain time of the day you had to go home, because that's when other things started happening and other people started coming out. And those kinds of experiences, I knew that there was an obligation that I had to get out of that environment, and I did. But it didn't just happen. It wasn't like I didn't get out as a young man. I was out, at the age of 25 years old was when I finally got out of of that environment. Again, not to trash, you know, um the Bronx, because that's where I'm from and I love the Bronx, and I still have family in the Bronx and a lot of friends there. And it's still close to my heart because it's where I was raised and it's where I learned a lot of life lessons. But I knew that the things that I wanted to do, I couldn't do it in that environment, like play music in a band. And there were not a lot of bands in the South Bronx, and there were not a lot of places to play there either. I had to go to New York and Manhattan, I should say. um, and that's what I did. I moved right into the Upper West Side, and I started my life, and I haven't moved back yet since. I've been on, I guess, on my own, whatever that means, since that time. And you know, those obligations really become more important as you get older and when you have kids. You know, so here's the thing. The bottom line is that it's extremely important, obviously, to fulfill those obligations, right, for us individually. But it's also an obligation for us to make sure that those that owe you or owe others are also holding up to their end of the bargain, holding up that, keeping those obligations, because you're doing them an injustice if they're not. That you may think that they're, well, that's on them. If they don't want to do it, that's on them. It may be on them, but you should say something, because it's just more harmful for them. You're doing them an injustice if you're not saying, listen, you should take care of this obligation, or you should take care even of yourself. We talked a little bit about taking care of your body and taking care of your health, and that's an obligation. I mean, it is. It's an obligation that came to you because of lack of responsibility in an area, right? And in taking care of yourself, and that lack of responsibility became this situation that you're currently in now, and that can be really damaging to a person. you know so it's our responsibility to help those, and I want people to help me. And if they see I need to do something and I'm not taking responsibility for it, or not holding up my obligations, I want them to say that. And they have. Trust me, I've been told. And I'm always constantly working on doing that. One of the things that I'm really um, working towards is my obligation to really to do what I'm doing right now, which is to bring positivity to the world. That is for me. I don't know why I feel this, or I don't know why. What's the excuse? But for some reason, since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to entertain people and make them laugh and make them. I don't know, and entertain them in some way that made people feel good. That was just, it didn't matter if I was hanging out around friends that I was close with. I was sort of a quiet kid when I was in school, but if I was in a close group of friends and four or five of us were together, I was there to make them laugh and to make them feel good and to give them good experiences. Um, and in looking back with a lot of these friends, they remember that, and it is something that stuck with them, when they bring it up to me now. And that's a joy, that's a pleasure to hear them say the things that they say about growing up and hearing me say things. And that to me is my obligation, and I'm not, fulfilling it to the best of my ability at the moment, because there's just so much, with the two kids and trying to. Also a professional live streamer, which this is a sort of like a live stream, but I have other apps that I actually work for, where I create content for on a daily basis for a few hours. So that takes up a lot of time to prepare that. Um, and music and those kind of things, they take up a lot of time, but I am working towards that, and I am working towards expanding my brand and myself, and try to help as many people as I possibly can. And doing this series that I'm doing now of the 21 precepts of the way to happiness, I feel extremely blessed that I have this opportunity to bring this to you, and hopefully it provides some value to anyone. And if it doesn't, if you think I'm a doo-doo head, that's okay too. That's okay too. You know, Lord knows that last year, with this whole crazy world that we've been living in, I kind of like just went all in on communicating what I felt, you know, was the right thing to communicate based on a lot of research and a lot of understanding of what was happening. I did that, and I lost a lot of friends, acquaintances, and people that really didn't really apply, didn't really contribute that much to my life, and I didn't contribute that much to their lives. So they were just mere acquaintances that were just passing through in my life, but had completely different viewpoints, and some of them were not very nice. So it was very easy to break away from that. But I did feel that it was an obligation for me to actually communicate those things, because it's just more difficult when you don't. And I had friends, and I had family members that were against it, but you know I think the ones that really know me and that care about me knew what I was doing, and knew that I you know that they know me. I'm not a person that's just gonna first of all, I don't watch the news. I watch people on the ground. That's another obligation that I think everyone has. If you're watching the news, I mean, if you are watching mainstream media for to find out what's happening, wow. I mean, wow. I mean, you don't know what's happening, basically. Um, prove me wrong, first of all. Prove me wrong. And most people can't. They'll just be like upset. I'm going on a little tangent, but I do that here. I do that here. I talk about other things that come into my brain, and but I am extremely grateful to all of you that are listening. Anybody that listens in the podcast, I appreciate y'all very much. I pray for everyone's safety during this time. I pray for those in Washington D.C. right now who are going through the riots. Some crazy stuff happening right now. I don't know if the mainstream media is even covering it. They might not be covering it because it doesn't look good for certain narratives. But I pray for everyone there, and I hope they're doing well. Because what can you say? It's just a tragic time. But there's a lot of positivity going on in the world. There's a lot of wonderful things in the world. I've seen some videos on my particular religion all over the world doing some tremendous things. Um, and, biggest projects ever in the history of the church, and extremely grateful for that, and to experience it and to be there and to be a part of it, has been really great. So there is a lot of positivity in the world. There's great music being written. There's great films being created, stories being written, and there's a lot of things that we can be focusing on that really show us that the world is a really beautiful place, and that the majority of people just want to live good lives and make better choices for themselves and their families. And there's just a small minority of assholes that are out there. I mean, very small minority, and I know that we see them magnified a million times, and that's another reason why that's happening. And if you're denying that, that's fine. Go enjoy yourself. But if you really are interested, you can really research and find out this small little percentage of people that are creating these horrible things in the world are being magnified by a million times with a system in place. So the world is getting better, and I know that's hard to even for somebody to, for me to say that, and people be like, "Oh, are you crazy? Don't you watch what's happening?" It's being magnified. I don't know anyone, not one person that has gone to a riot and has thrown any fire into a window. And I know thousands of people, thousands of people I know, like I know them. I don't, and I've never met one. Matter of fact, I've never met one that has told me that they've known someone, or my friend did this, or my friend Mark. It's such a small percentage. It's incredible. All right, folks, I'm gonna I'm gonna end off there. But yes, fulfilling your obligations was today's precept. And let's talk about tomorrow's. Let's see what it is. Oh, this is a good one. I love this one. This one is be industrious. It's about work and about producing and production and uh, creating. Oh, I love it. So we're going to have a good time tomorrow talking about being industrious. So yes, so join me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Monday to Fridays. I do this. It's Eastern time. If you're listening to this anywhere else, I am here Monday through Fridays to the end of these precepts, and then trying to figure out if I'm going to continue this morning show in a different format. I do enjoy it, and it's part of what I've been doing lately that has really been fulfilling, and I've been getting some good responses. I might change the time, so that means I'll have to change 7 a.m. to another time. um, and I do have other shows coming. The JHS show, which is I did over 100 episodes last year, and a few other things that I have going on. So I'm really looking to communicate with the world and to send a positive message, but not to be a pansy. And I don't want to be a preacher. I don't want to be I want to just be me communicating. And sometimes I say things that people are like, "What? How dare you?" Um, and but I back those up. And as I get into the next phase of what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to expand more on those viewpoints, and hopefully you can come along with me on this journey. And I appreciate all of you. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Make today great, and do what you love. And I will see you all tomorrow. And as always,